Now, they can start contacting people who are not coaching. They can start contacting people on teams that will not be in the playoffs. But in terms of marquee hot candidates, other teams, they can't do it till the divisional round is over. So there will be a chunk of time in which the Chargers are very limited in their search for a new coach, new general manager. I've been told that they're going to hire a general manager first, then the general manager with John Spanos will lead the search for a head coach. So it's not like they got to do it a week from Monday. They do have lead time. And if they have guys that are not working in the NFL now or guys on teams that are out of the playoffs, they can start pursuing permission to interview these guys. Hot list, general manager. This is a guy that I really like. His name is Adam Peters. He's been a longtime assistant general manager to the San Francisco 49ers. You know them, best record, NFL, John Lynch and all that. Adam Peters, I think, is a hot candidate. Joe Horwitz, Baltimore Ravens. Who is Baltimore? They win, and they win, and they win. And they draft really well. Seldom do they do anything in free agency. Obviously, John Harbaugh is the face as the head coach, but Joe Horwitz is player personnel director. Pretty good track record. Another guy nobody knows. He's been with this team for 21 years. You go back and you look at the history of the Dallas Cowboys, they draft well, and they don't make a lot of mistakes in free agency. Will McClay. Those are three names right off the top that I think they're going to get the chance to talk to. Now, because all three of those are on clubs that are probably going to be playing into January deep, they won't have a chance to hire one of them at this point. But those are three guys with great credibility on their resume. Thoughts?
Well, I mean, you can't go wrong hiring a 49er assistant GM, considering what that team has been doing, or the Ravens assistant GM. But I want to ask a question is, what is the brand of the Chargers? What are they going to be known for? What's their calling card? Because I think you have to have that identity, and then you build around that identity if you're going to hit the reset button and start over.
That's a real valid question, considering most of the things you say are out in left field. But no, in all honesty, that's a valid question with an asterisk right at the end, because they're in salary cap hell. The roster they have right now is not going to be the roster they're going to have next year, because they are like 60 to 70 million over the salary cap.
Ooh.
So they've got decisions. Who do they keep? Who do they restructure? Are they going to have to chop bodies? So the roster around Justin Herbert, who is the focal point, the quarterback, I think is going to be in for some real change once we get the new general manager in. Who are they? That's a quarterback that throws the ball down the field. Who are they? They need something different in the offensive line because the offensive line disappointed everybody. Who are they? I think they're saying goodbye to Austin Eckler, so now they have no established running backs. So they got a pile of issues on offense. And by the way, after you fix that next Monday, what the hell are you going to do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday with the defense, which hasn't played well for 3 straight plus years under Brandon Staley's system? A lot of athletes, but not very many of them are accomplished. And you know, they've turned Derwin James into just a pedestrian safety, and that guy was supposed to be the next Rodney Harrison, the next Ronnie Lott, and where has he been the last year and a half? The system sucks. Kenneth Murray, first-round draft pick, linebacker. When was the last time he made a play?
Yeah, you don't hear his name much.
No, not at all. And then obviously the enormous amounts of money they're paying the 2 pass rushers, Bosa and Khalil Mack. I don't think they can afford to have $61 million cap space tied up in those 2 guys, and Bosa's hurt all the time. We got the wrong Bosa on our team. The real Bosa's in San Francisco. So, John, that's a long answer to your very pertinent question. Who are they? They got a lot of problems. One problem they don't have is the kid quarterback, Justin Herbert. But, boy, they got other issues. Now they got the money asterisk issue they got to deal with. Now, let's talk about coaches. And there's a zillion names out there. Just thumb through the phone book. You'll find a name that might be a candidate. Bill Belichick. The general consensus across the board is he will exit New England at the end of the season. I hope it's not messy. Fans in Boston are really angry, which is absurd. They've had such a phenomenal run, all those Super Bowl rings with Belichick and Tom Brady. But Belichick has created this mess that has now taken down Belichick, the coach, because Belichick, the general manager, has done such a poor job in free agency and kind of a substandard job, I think, in the draft. If Belichick becomes available, would he come out here? My heart says I would make a run at him only as my coach. He is not going to be upstairs in the player personnel department. But the Spanoses historically have been terribly cheap. I can't see them paying Belichick $7 million or $9 million. Belichick, if he exits New England, think he will, Belichick might wind up in Washington, new owner, Charlotte, impulsive owner. And if something bad happens with the New York Jets, because they're not winning under Robert Saleh, could you imagine Woody Johnson relinking with Belichick? So that's where we are with him. Dan Quinn, he did an admirable job in a tough situation, head coach Atlanta. He wound up getting fired. He was above 500. He got fired. He has reinvented himself, his resume, with what he's done with the defense with the Dallas Cowboys last night, withstanding. Jim Schwartz, he is the creative juice that has made the Cleveland Browns the best defense in the NFL. Former defensive assistant, Philadelphia Eagles, head coach, Detroit, failed badly, bad organization. He's reinvented his credibility too. Jim Harbaugh, Michigan. We all know track record, what he did USD, what he did Stanford, what he did at Michigan, what he did with the 49ers. The only negative to Harbaugh is that he wears out his welcome. Every place that he was at, as he fixed football programs, they were ready for him to leave when he exited. And I don't know if Michigan wants him out, but the NCAA may have something to say about this, because I still maintain there's something coming down this road about the COVID blackout recruiting violations that Michigan's program was in. But Harbaugh's a candidate. And then you've got Ben Johnson, offensive coordinator, Detroit Lions, getting a lot of credit for fixing Jared Goff. You've got Frankie Smith, offensive coordinator, Miami, what he's done with Tua. The only issue is hot coordinators. Chargers have done this 3 times now in a row. Mike McCoy, Anthony Lynn, Brendan Staley. Hasn't worked out. So are you think you can hit the jackpot with somebody else's young coordinator, or are you just going to revisit struggles because they're learning on the job, or you better serve to go get a veteran guy? And John Riley says,
this is a great question, because often the Chargers have hired great, coordinators, even Norv Turner, right? But they're not leaders of men. They're not the guys that really, get their team to come up to another level. So this may be the time we need to get an experienced head coach, or at least a guy that's done it before, even if they're now a coordinator. So, a lot of these names on the list are names we've talked about before. Dan Quinn might be pretty interesting. I don't want Belichick. I mean, just turn the page on that guy. I mean, when he doesn't have Tom Brady, he's nothing special. And he's had a rough go in other places. Quinn is interesting. Harbaugh is the sexy name, but I'm not sure about that. And then, who else is there? I mean, that would be worthy of consideration. It just seems that some teams just kind of hit a guy like, Antonio Pierce doing a pretty good job at the Raiders. Sometimes teams just find a guy that just has magic. And I'm just wondering if any of these guys have that Midas touch.
So you're telling me you don't want to hear the name John Gruden either?
Oh, Gruden. Well, I thought he was going back to the Raiders. That's what you were saying. No Gruden. I mean, no way.
It's the toughest part in the NFL, and I've walked those hallways and my relationships with these general managers. The toughest part, maybe it's an imagery thing, hiring a veteran guy. Are you hiring a guy that you think deserves a second chance, or are you hiring a retread? And that's a big argument. Is Dan Quinn a second chance guy because of what he's done in Dallas? Or is he just some other guy who got fired some other place? Now you're going to give him another chance? Tough call.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.